Are we headed towards the birth of a cashless society, and is this a sign of the end times? A lot of people right now are saying that we're probably fixing to enter into a cashless society and that this is predicted in the Bible. So what is a cashless society? It's a world in which all purchases are paid by electronic money methods like credit cards or Apple Pay on your phone. There's no more cash or coins. So a lot of people see the way our world is going with technological advances and electronic payment methods as precursors to a total cashless environment. And right now, there's a lot of talk about this because of the pandemic that we're in. And some businesses are not accepting cash anymore because cash is dirty and it could spread the virus. So people everywhere are saying, man, we're fixing to get into this cashless society. And this is all talked about in the Bible. Well, what does this have to do with the Bible? You know, many people believe that before the Antichrist reveals himself and Jesus comes back, that our world will probably have already been made into a cashless society. And the main scripture used to say this is in Revelation 13. And here's what it says. It, meaning the beast, also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man. That number is 666. So it seems to be saying that there's going to be some kind of global economic system put in place where you can't buy or sell anything unless you have a mark, the 666 on you. People say about this scripture that, well, the Bible is obviously describing a cashless society here because it says that we won't be able to buy or sell unless we have the mark. There's obviously going to be no more cash because the Antichrist will want to control everyone and when he gets here. And what better way to do that than to get rid of all the cash and control all of our purchases and track us with the mark? Okay, that's one way to describe this verse. But I think this is one of those verses that we really need to slow down and look at it even closer. Is it really describing a future cashless society? So I'm going to give you some things that we need to ask ourselves about this cashless society in this scripture. And I'm going to let you decide, cash or no cash. The first question that we need to ask ourselves is, why do we automatically think that this verse, along with the entire book of Revelation, is in our future? You know, a lot of people don't think about it, but there are alternative views about this mark of the beast scripture and all the other end time scriptures. A lot of us, we just grew up being taught that Revelation is about the end of this physical world sometime in the future when Jesus will float down from the sky on a cloud. But if that's true, why does the very first verse of Revelation say that what John was about to write about was going to quickly come to pass? Quickly, not thousands of years in the future. In verse 3, it says that the time is near. And Jesus says in other places in Revelation that he's coming soon. So it just doesn't sound like something that was going to happen way off in the future. And this is important because we got to be able to explain why it says that it was going to come to pass quickly. The other alternative view of Revelation, the entire book, is that this time of the end is not in our future, but that it already happened in the year around the time AD 70, when the Jews' temple was destroyed. So in other words, Revelation is actually describing the end of the Old Covenant age, when God brought judgment on the city of Jerusalem through the Romans. A lot of people don't know this, but Daniel, for example, he saw visions about the end just like John saw here in Revelation. And when Daniel saw these visions of the end, God told him to seal up the prophecy because it would be a long time before it came to pass. But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Daniel 12:4. And he said, go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Daniel 12:9. But look at what he tells John. Do not seal the words of the prophecy of this book. Revelations 22:10. In other words, Daniel needed to seal up what he saw because it was still hundreds, 500, 600, 700 years in the future. But John was told not to seal up the same vision because it was going to happen in just a few short years. And he also told Daniel in a few places Therefore, seal up the vision, because it refers to many days in the future. Daniel 8:26. Now I have come to make you understand what will happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision refers to many days yet to come. Daniel 10, verse 14. But look at what he told John again. Do not seal the words of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. Revelation 22:10. The destruction of their city in AD 70 happened just a few short years after John wrote Revelation. So to me, it just makes more sense that these prophecies are talking about that and not about a time in our future. And this is important because if all this happened in the past, then there's just no reason for us to speculate if Revelation 13 is about a cashless society and our future to begin with. This scripture would have already happened. But again, I'll let you decide, cash or no cash. Just know that there are other views of the end times out there. The second question that we need to ask ourselves about this scripture is, even if this scripture was in our future, where does it explicitly and clearly say that there's going to be no cash in the scripture? Read it again slowly if you got to, but Revelation 13 just doesn't say that anywhere. Even people who teach that there will be a cashless society in the future admit that this scripture doesn't exactly say that. Now, the Bible never explicitly says the coming of the one world economic system will be a cashless system. It only says that people will need the beast mark in order to transact business. Mark Hitchcock, in The End of Money, page 167. To me, this is an important statement, and it's true. I mean, here we are assuming and speculating about something that the Bible doesn't even mention. I mean, think about that for a minute. It just says that we won't be able to buy or sell without the mark. And if this verse was in the future, then there still could very well be cash. You just wouldn't be able to use it unless you had the mark. So we simply speculate about a cashless society because we think that it would be easier for the Antichrist to have control and install the mark in people. Cash or no cash? Speaking of that mark of the beast, people who believe in a cashless society believe that it's crucial to have the mark of the beast. You know, a lot of people think you can't have the mark without a cashless society, but that brings us to another question. If this mark in Revelation 13 is a barcode or a microchip or a vaccine or whatever other kind of ridiculous speculation we want to put on it, why isn't it a microchip in Revelation 14 when Jesus puts it on the 144,000? See, in Revelation 13, with this mark, it says that the people had a mark, which is the name of the beast, written on their foreheads, right? But in Revelation 14, it says that Jesus had the name of his Father written on the foreheads of the 144,000. So if we're going to say that it's a microchip in chapter 13, then it has to be a microchip in Revelation 14 too. Is Jesus going to give the 144,000 a microchip in their foreheads when he comes back? Another alternative view about this mark is that it's not meant to be thought of as a visible mark. One ancient Jewish figure of speech was that of a mark on their foreheads or on their hands that showed their loyalty, like Isaiah 44:5. Some will say, I belong to the Lord. Others will call themselves by the name of Jacob. Notice that phrase, their name. Still, others will write on their hand, the Lord's, and will take the name Israel. Or even like the Feast of Unleavened Bread for the children of Israel in the Old Testament. Right when they were fixing to leave Egypt, they were told that that ceremony will be for you like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead, that this law of the Lord is to be on your lips. For the Lord brought you out of Egypt with his mighty hand. Exodus chapter 13, verse 9. Notice the phrases there. So in other words, the mark here in Revelation 13 is apparently more than likely not a literal mark. I mean, in Greek, that word does mean like a branding, like when you brand cattle, but it was used as a figure of speech by the ancient Jews to say where your loyalty lies. But the bottom line is this, and this is where I'm going to end this. We can sit here all day and speculate about credit cards and Bitcoin, electronic money payments, smart cards, and all that. You know, we can write books all day long about how the creation of a new cashless Monopoly board game is a sign of the end. But before we do that, I think that we should answer the question that I presented first. Why does it say that the things in Revelation were going to happen quickly in the Apostle John's day? Let's answer those sensible questions first, and then let's start talking about a cashless society.